A woman in a flowing white dress with blonde hair cascading down was watching with admiration as SunRaku, the masked man, defeated the monster. In a surprising twist, SunRaku suddenly turned against the woman who was named Faria, attacking her. As the game ended, a boy with a grin of accomplishment lifted the virtual reality headset off his head. In the real world, virtual reality gaming had become the new standard. However, amidst the handful of exceptional titles, low-quality games known as trash games still persisted. Some people found joy exploring them. Rakuro Hizutome was one of them. Hizutome walked through the school hallway, a girl peeking at him from around the corner, thinking of how to talk to him. She rushed towards him, but one of his friends caught his attention before she could say anything. Disappointed, the girl, named Rei, went to the Rock Roll game shop. There, she chatted with Mana Iwamaki, the shop's owner, who teased Rei about liking Hizutome. They talked about how he hadn't been around lately, probably because he was still playing Faria Chronicle online. Just then, Hizutome walked into the shop, and Rei quickly disappeared. He asked Mana if there were any new games to play. Mana asked if he had finished the last one. Hizutome complained about Faria Chronicle game and expressed his determination that led him to beat it. Mana suggests he try a better game this time, like Shangri-La Frontier. Hizutome decided to give it a try. Back home, he made research about the game and drank an energy drink. He launched Shangri-La Frontier into his headset and got ready to start playing. Once the game started, Hizutome started choosing his character, and he was amazed at the multiple choices he had to pick from. He chose his character design of himself with a bird head mask to hide his identity. He laid down wearing the headset. His character, SunRaku, found himself in a forest. He looked around and observed his massive surroundings. He was amazed at how realistic the game features were and started testing them out. What he did not know is that he skipped the tutorial map. He started in a random location in the beginner zone instead. As he walked in the forest, a green monster attacked him. SunRaku fought back and cut it in half with his sword, leveling up. Then he noticed something moving in the bushes. Two glowing red eyes piercing through the darkness were staring back at him. The rabbit lunged at SunRaku with incredible speed, swinging its claw downward. SunRaku dodged to the side, causing the monster to hit a tree. The monster attacked again, and they began fighting with swords. SunRaku slashed at the creature's midsection, but it dodged, only receiving a shallow cut. After a tough fight, SunRaku defeated the monster and leveled up again. He realized that he gained new skills based on his actions in the game, not just from his stats. In the town of Furstia, people were passing by and staring at the character dressed in a sleek suit of armor. This individual, being a high-level player in a starting town, drew attention. It turned out to be Rei, who was there searching for Hizutome's character. Meanwhile, SunRaku stumbled upon a massive dragon. The creature immediately displayed its dominance by unleashing a powerful roar. The dragon then released a purple liquid that covered SunRaku's body, which he soon realized was a poison that caused damage every 10 seconds. SunRaku started targeting the dragon's vulnerable spots, using precise strikes. Throughout the fight, he adapted to the dragon's patterns, learning from each attack. Predicting the dragon's movements allowed him to dodge more effectively. The dragon, sensing the threat, became more aggressive, using its tail and wings to knock SunRaku off balance. After an exhausting fight, SunRaku managed to defeat the dragon. The beast collapsed, confirming the victory of the protagonist. He was thrilled to have leveled up, but soon realized that poison was still affecting his health. Two characters in the game noticed SunRaku running. The boy advised him on how to survive. When he entered a building, SunRaku grew frustrated with the lengthy introduction the woman at the front desk was making. As soon as she gave him the room number, he ran to the room and lay on the bed to register. This temporarily reduced all his stats. Hizutome then removed the headset and sat on his bed, reflecting on how awesome the game was. Back in the game, SunRaku was walking around the town of Secondale. Other characters stared at him, some laughing because he was half naked. He went to a shop for new gear and a weapon. The man selling the weapons told him he could craft a good weapon if SunRaku brought him ores from a place named Dire Marsh Waste, known for its harsh environment. Hizutome started mining and looking for ores within stones. The mud made his movements weak and slow. A frog began jumping around, covering SunRaku in mud. Frustrated, SunRaku threw his weapon at the frog, killed it, and collected its skin. SunRaku returned to the man and gave him what he had collected. The man crafted him a pair of marsh daggers. The man advised him that it was getting dark and that if he wanted to leave town, now was the time. When SunRaku asked why, the man explained that the monsters lurking in the darkness were even more dangerous. However, SunRaku was excited about the prospect of leveling up by taking on the night monsters. Meanwhile, Rei was still searching for Hizutome in the beginner zone. SunRaku was fighting off a redcap goblin during the night when the creature began making a noise, signaling similar creatures to join the fight. Soon, more goblins approached, attacking him from all sides. This was when Hizutome realized the game was not as easy as he had first thought. At that exact moment, he came face to face with a unique monster called Lycagon the Night Slayer. Rei's character approached the boy and girl who had seen SunRaku in town the other day and began asking where she could find him. They provided her with the latest updates they had. She thanked them, gave them a token of gratitude, and left. The boy then told the girl that, judging by Rei's cape, she was a hunter of the unique monsters, of which there are only 7 in the game. After fighting off a horde of redcap goblins, meanwhile, SunRaku finds himself confronted by Lycagon the Night Slayer, a unique and formidable monster. As the moonlight filters through the dense forest, Lycagon emerges with a menacing growl, its glowing eyes fixed on SunRaku. The battle begins with Lycagon launching a flurry of rapid, vicious attacks, forcing SunRaku to rely on quick reflexes to dodge its lethal strikes. Lycagon released a toxic mist, enveloping SunRaku and causing his health to worsen steadily. SunRaku woke up in a bed and realized he was cursed and felt frustrated and worried about how it would affect his health and abilities. As he walked through the town, he muttered that the game was terrible, which made people think he was a weirdo. He reminded himself of the 3 principles that helped him through the trash games, which are staying open-minded, staying strong, and making smart decisions. He saw a rabbit at the end of the street and started chasing it. The rabbit stopped at a wall, and a magical door appeared. The rabbit went inside and SunRaku followed. He thought that the door might lead to hidden treasures. He found a town filled with rabbits. The rabbit he chased, named Emil of Rabbituza, greeted him and said that he was the talk of the town. Emil led SunRaku to a palace and informed him that he was the first ever to visit it, making SunRaku very happy. Inside, Emil introduced SunRaku to his boss and father, Vaisashe, who was impressed by SunRaku's bravery and strength in fighting Lycagon the Night Slayer. Rei was browsing in the game shop when Mana caught her off guard. Nervously, she explained that she was checking for new games. Mana reassured her that Hizutome wasn't around and was likely busy playing Shangri-La. Rei mentioned she hadn't found him in the game's beginner zone. Mana comforted her, reassuring her that she'd locate him soon. Emil invited SunRaku to tour the palace, but SunRaku declined, opting instead to read more about unique scenarios in the game. Vaisashe threw a collar around SunRaku's neck, explaining it wouldn't come off until he allowed it, and that facing hardships would make him stronger. Hizutome then played a trash fighting game called Berserk Online, which he hadn't touched in a while. He was challenged to a fight and accepted. Knowing the other player, they sat and talked about his new obsession with Shangri-La Frontier. The other player was surprised, knowing that SunRaku usually only played trash games. Intrigued, the player said he would also try it out. Leaving Rabbituza, Emil and SunRaku headed to town. 2 girls saw the rabbit on SunRaku's shoulder and admired how cute it was, asking him how he had tamed it. Feeling overwhelmed, SunRaku started running away, but one of the girls took a screenshot and posted it on the game's forum. Emil and SunRaku arrived at an empty spot away from other people. SunRaku mentioned he wanted to test out his curse, which causes lower-level monsters to flee from him. As they waited, a creature began running towards SunRaku, but once it got close, it turned and ran away. SunRaku chased after the creature and killed it. SunRaku then encountered a marsh monster named Montugur. He realized that to win, he needed to stop Montugur in its tracks. The creature's body was covered in thick, muddy scales that blended with its surroundings. making it difficult to target. Montague began the fight by using its powerful abilities to manipulate mud, sending large waves and torrents towards SunRaku. With the help of Emil and his magic book, they were close to defeating the monster. But then Montague disappeared and the earth started shaking. SunRaku threw Emil away to protect him just as the monster emerged from under the mud, hurling SunRaku into the air to try and cause a fall damage. As SunRaku was falling, Emil used a magic trick to make SunRaku repeat the fall, but this time he landed on Montague's head, killing it and winning the battle. SunRaku began thinking about how he and Emil could return to town without drawing attention to Emil. Using his shape-shifting power, Emil transformed into a girl to avoid suspicion. However, this trick only lasted for 5 to 10 minutes before he shifted back to his original form. Reaching Thurdrima, the guards stopped them at the gate, suspicious of SunRaku's nakedness. Emil quickly explained that SunRaku had a sad past. She told the guards that SunRaku was a super warrior who had challenged his destined rival from a past life, Lycagon. Cursed and unable to escape his destiny, he was now on a journey to remove the curse. As Emil continued her tale, the guards interrupted, acknowledging that while it was unusual for someone to be naked, it wasn't unheard of, and they let them pass. SunRaku noticed people watching him, but he didn't feel like they were seeing him as a weirdo. A girl named Animalia then stopped him, stating that she recognized him from screenshots uploaded in the forums, asking more experienced players how they could tame a talking bunny like him. Most players were intrigued by the talking animal. Animalia saw the post and wondered if it was a cheat, since the game only had dogs and cats. However, another player explained that the game had good cheat detection, making it unlikely to be a cheat. Animalia asked SunRaku to tell her how to tame a Vorpal bunny. SunRaku did not want to share the information on the unique scenario and did not even know how he had triggered it. Suddenly, Pencilgon attacked them both, but they managed to dodge. She then addressed SunRaku as Revolutionary Knight SunRaku, which made him realize she was Pencil Knight. Pencilgon explained that in this game she went by Arthur Pencilgon and not Pencil Knight. SunRaku then noticed that she was level 99 and had a player kill icon. Arthur Pencilgon, an old friend and rival from the game Unite Rounds, confronted SunRaku with a determination to figure out the secret behind his unexpected power. Her level was much higher than his, making the fight unwinnable for SunRaku. In the game Unite Rounds, due to its severe glitches and low item drop rates, players often resorted to stealing from the kingdom rather than protecting it. Pencil Knight, who is known in that game, decided to turn the game around. She promoted cooperation and sharing, eventually becoming the ruler and an unofficial boss within the game. SunRaku managed to fight his way to Pencil Knight's throne room, facing her as the final boss in that game. In this game, Shangri-La Frontier, Arthur and SunRaku fought fiercely. Arthur couldn't understand how SunRaku had become so powerful despite his lower level. Arthur turned out to be the second in command of a guild that kills players. Meanwhile, Emil was slowly turning back into a rabbit. SunRaku taunted Arthur, claiming she couldn't kill him. Arthur retorted that they were not in a town, so she definitely could. Just as Emil finally fully transformed back into a rabbit, SunRaku kicked Arthur away and fled towards town with Emil. Animalia intervened to slow Arthur down, not wanting the rabbit to be harmed, and engaged Arthur in a fight. SunRaku reached the town gate only to be confronted by 4 other player killers sent to assist Arthur. He fought them, but the odds were against him. Arthur used a karmic straw doll, a consumable item that reflects curses back to the caster, and poisoned Animalia. SunRaku was attacked by the 4 player killers. Suddenly, Saigo Zero, Rei's character, arrived and saved SunRaku after tracking him through the game forums. As Rei walked to school, she saw Hizutome with his friends and couldn't help but stare at him. She saw him again in class. Rei was in love with Hizutome, but was too nervous to talk to him, so she hoped to connect with him through a game. In the game, Animalia's spell killed both herself and Arthur. This surprise allowed Rakuro to escape into Thurdrima. Rei was happy when SunRaku briefly spoke to her, but she blamed the assassins for cutting the conversation short and ended up killing them all due to frustration. Arthur took her loss in stride and sent an email inviting SunRaku to talk later in the post-apocalyptic game, along with their other online friend, Katsuo. SunRaku teleported to Rabatuza to begin playing the unique scenario. For his first training session, he had to fight a group of packhounds, all level 65 or higher. Rei, meanwhile, decided that the next time she saw Hizutome in the game, she would send him a friend request. SunRaku died 7 times in a row during his quest, before he figured out that the packhounds' attack patterns were predictable and managed to kill them. His opponents grew progressively stronger. Despite his victories, he only advanced to level 31 due to the reduced experience points from the Vorpal collar. Visace then appeared to watch Rakuro's 10th fight, against a monster he had captured specifically for him, a level 120 wood mage. This tree-shaped sorcerer was so powerful that Visace only asked SunRaku to survive for 5 minutes to win the round. SunRaku needed to survive for 5 minutes. At first, he joked about it, but when the monster's first attack nearly hit him, he realized how serious the fight was. He began dodging desperately. SunRaku tried to get close to the monster to attack it, but its tough skin and chains made it hard. Emil told him when each minute had passed. SunRaku noticed that the monster's root spears were hard to predict. The monster threw in random magic attacks, making things even tougher as time went on. SunRaku knew he needed to do something fast or he wouldn't last 5 minutes. When the monster used a new spell, SunRaku thought about quitting, but quickly changed his mind. He didn't want to give up, even though there was no penalty for dying in the game. He decided to get serious. Knowing his regular attacks wouldn't work, SunRaku grabbed the monster's staff, stopping it from casting spells. The monster went crazy, flailing with its root spears and chains. SunRaku threw the staff away, making the monster chase it, which gave him just enough time to survive the 5 minutes. Just as the monster was about to attack again, Visace stepped in and killed it with 1 hit. He explained that the monster could only block attacks while holding the staff. As a reward, SunRaku was named an honorary Rabatuzan and got his Vorpal collar removed, unlocking a new special quest. Happy with his progress, he logged out for the night. The next day, SunRaku logged back in and checked out the new quest called Vorpal Epic. He couldn't understand the complicated story, but saw the recommended level was 80. Since he was only level 31, he decided to move on to the next town. He needed a way to get there without being noticed. Emil took him to her younger brother, who ran a special shop in the palace. Disguised as a human, the brother gave SunRaku a full-body blanket to wear, hoping it would make him less noticeable. But SunRaku felt it made him look silly. The Ashirakai base leader, Orsalot, scolded the others for failing against Saiger Zero and not getting info from SunRaku. Pencilgon thought she should have gone instead, but Orsalot told them to threaten SunRaku for the info. Pencilgon left, thinking the others were useless. She knew they used to steal, but after the PKing updates, they became cowards. She preferred risking everything to beat a unique monster for an NPC. Meanwhile, SunRaku saw Saiger Zero and started running. Other PKers noticed him due to his name. He pretended to head to the Iron Ruins, which they figured out was a trick. He planned to go to the forest. Saiger Zero waited for him at the forest entrance and sent him a friend request. The friend system was meant to build close ties. SunRaku accepted, making Rei the happiest person ever. He ran off, apologizing for using them, and compared the encounter to facing a more sensible Lycagon. Saiger Zero, on the other hand, scared off the PKers. Inside the forest path, they ditched their disguises and entered a pretty grotto with new monsters. SunRaku collected items before facing the area's boss. He talked about a quad beetle fighting empire bees. The queen died and SunRaku got the boss's attention. He used a new item to trick the queen into attacking a mimic mantis. This gave him time to attack its weak spot and get items. Emil said he was using others before they found spiderwebs. The area boss, Clown Spider, appeared. The other group came to the forest and tried to fight the boss of that area. When they saw the clown mark on the spider's back, they screamed hard. SunRaku wanted to go into the cave, but had to wait till the players had finished their fight. Within moments, one of them fell, crushed by a falling rock, allowing SunRaku to join the fight. SunRaku asked Emil to wait on the ground as he was going to try and beat the spider without losing even a single drop of HP. Avoiding the webs and boulders caused by the monster's attacks against him, he activated his one-boat leap and expertly dodged each of them. Boulders kept falling, and SunRaku used the webs as if they were like footholds. This, according to him, was like navigating through the forest. Emil stared at him in disbelief. SunRaku avoided the attack of the spider once more and cut one of the legs from underneath it so that the creature collapsed to the ground. Then he looked around him and saw that some wood and some big rocks had been caught in the webs above, so he set those free to fall down on the spider. That had not been enough to kill the thing. SunRaku looked at the clown mark, and then he remembered how Lycagon had beaten him up. The back was cut through dozens of times. He kept landing critical hits. Finally, SunRaku killed the boss all by himself, with not any damage received. Katsuo, the defeated mud digger in single combat, complained about life being too easy. Katsuo's character, a blonde girl, relied on her fists and resorted to no weapons. Pencilgon had met SunRaku and Katsuo the previous day in the Unity rounds and suggested creating a team to take down class monsters. To her, this was already expected. The other two were very surprised by the suggestion. SunRaku was extremely cautious, whereas Katsuo jumped at the idea. They assented to Pencilgon's proposal of taking Weathermon. As soon as Hizutome came out of the shop, Rei went up to him and did her best to call out to him. He was trembling, but he remembered his name. She told him she knew Shangri-La Frontier as well. Then, just as she was about to ask to play together, Pencilgon sent messages to Hizutome. He quickly excused himself, saying that he will talk later. Rei was just glad to finally have talked to her crush. SunRaku told her the plan to fight Weathermon is something she cannot join him for. Emil, shocked to hear the name of the monster, rushed off to tell her dad about it. SunRaku remembered that Pencilgon insisted that Emil shouldn't participate, because in this game, when NPCs died, they were gone for good. Realizing that SunRaku was planning to fight Weathermon, Emil started freaking out. The door leading to Rabbituza appeared, and Emil quickly went inside. They both sat with the boss, who asked SunRaku to confirm if this was his final decision. The boss advised him that he was still too weak. SunRaku explained that he was only going to act as support, and that it was to help a friend. The boss accepted this, and they gave him information about the unique monster, including that it was an undead type. Visace had felt sympathy for Weathermon, who was cursed with an undeath and unable to join his wife in the afterlife, so he had guarded her tomb instead. Granting Weathermon's death would be honorable. SunRaku and Emil went to meet Bilak, another of Visace's daughters. At Visace's request, SunRaku took out his Vorpal blades and handed them to the rabbit. Visace said he would ascend them, which meant that the weapon will take a new form. Combining Rakuro's experience of fighting Lycagon with the armor of the quad beetle resulted in the creation of the Vorpal knives. One sacrifices health for powerful strikes, while the other restores health at the same speed it is lost. Unfortunately, he needed to reach level 50 to use them, which meant he had to gain 19 levels in just 2 weeks. SunRaku showed up late to the meeting with Katsuo and Pencilgon. They scolded him for it, then they talked about their plan. They decided to go their separate ways until later that night. Before leaving, Pencilgon looked over at Emil, who was trying to blend in quietly, and mentioned that she had noticed it from the moment they both walked in. When Katsuo noticed the rabbit, she got excited and started pinching its cheeks and picking it up to examine it. The three of them walked through the forest until they reached the entrance of their destination. The three of them reached the iron ruins of the divinity. SunRaku was studying the map. They entered a large room with moving platforms and were amazed at its appearance. SunRaku asked Katsuo about her level, and she mentioned she had just reached level 25. SunRaku teased her, joking that she was still a baby. Suddenly, a red panel descended and attacked them. Katsuo confidently said she would handle it alone. As the enemy prepared to strike, Katsuo used her powers to defeat the enemy. She explained that the red aura in her hands boosted her strength and vitality. They continued following the map until they encountered a deep hole in the ground. Katsuo jumped to check if it was safe. Emil commented on Katsuo being admirable, and SunRaku explained that despite Katsuo's character being a woman, the player controlling her was a man. This impressed Emil. Katsuo called out to SunRaku, and SunRaku did not hear him and asked Emil about what Katsuo said. Emil told him she had called him a loser. SunRaku was annoyed and grabbed Emil, jumping into the hole with her. They discovered the Tear-Light Lake. SunRaku consulted the map and learned he could fish for a monster called the Life-Tide Lake Serpent to gain a lot of XP. They started fishing, and SunRaku caught a life-tide salmon. Katsuo thought she had caught one too, but it turned out to be the life-tide serpent. They both grinned. SunRaku drew the Empire B twin blade that Bilak had crafted for him. The weapon was special because, as Bilak explained, it infected wounds like a poison, working its way into the body. SunRaku used this knowledge and started attacking the serpent. Together, SunRaku, Emil, and Katsuo worked to defeat the serpent. As a result of their victory, they both leveled up. Katsuo revealed skill linking, a crucial game mechanic, along with the ability to get a job or join a guild, all of which Rakuro had missed by skipping the tutorial in first year. This made the game unnecessarily difficult for him. After several days, Rakuro and Katsuo reached levels 42 and 40, respectively, though SunRaku hid his embarrassment about skipping first year from Pencilgon. On full moon nights, they could access a hidden area leading to Setsuna. When they entered, they found a field of spider lilies with someone singing. SunRaku thought Setsuna was a bug at first because she looked transparent. He also noticed her clothes resembled those from the real world. Setsuna explained that Weathermon was her lover, guarding her grave due to a misunderstanding that led to her death. She wished for him to find peace. Pencilgon assured Setsuna they would do everything to fulfill her wish. However, Katsuo and SunRaku teased her about her past mistreatment of NPCs, which angered Pencilgon, and she punished them. Eventually, they bumped fists as agreement to defeat Weathermon. In real life, Hizutome woke up from sleep and went to brush his teeth. He greeted his mother in the kitchen making breakfast, and then his sister joined them, talking non-stop about her idol Towa Amane, a famous model. Soon after, their father, Senji, arrived home. They had an agreement to eat together for breakfast and dinner on Sundays to stay connected because they rarely saw each other. After breakfast, Hizutome returned to his room and started playing a trash game. He aimed to improve his skills, finding the game very helpful. His goal was to defeat the final boss, but he encountered a new player called Dragonfly and decided to challenge him. Dragonfly knew some moves, but Hizutome's experience gave him the upper hand. He offered to teach Dragonfly more about the game and train together. Dragonfly charged at SunRaku, but SunRaku countered with his quick draw fist move, landing a decisive punch before Dragonfly could even react. SunRaku agreed to another round. In the second one, Dragonfly approached similarly, but this time dodged SunRaku's attack using the yo-yo move, which also boosted his speed. However, Dragonfly's follow-up attack left him vulnerable, and he couldn't strike again immediately. Surprisingly, Dragonfly vibrated suddenly and used the same attack a second time, impressing both SunRaku and the onlookers. SunRaku congratulated Dragonfly for discovering a new move and taught him another bug technique. The next day, SunRaku visited Skill Garden in Rabbituza, where he met Emil's older sister, Elka. SunRaku told her that he heard that this was the place to combine skills. She told him that he came to the right place. SunRaku playfully mimicked her speech. Elka showed him a long list of abilities and told him that if he has one high-level skill and matches it with another high-level skill, they combine into a superior skill. He merged some. After making sure that is what he wanted, she presented a large bottle with a liquid that SunRaku needed to drink to learn new skills. Elka and Emil encouraged him to drink, and he did. Elka also mentioned unique skill grimoires, and SunRaku eagerly agreed to a deal, willing to pay any price. Elka took all his money just for one book. In another meeting, Pencilgon teased SunRaku because he arrived on time for once, and then told them she made a decision. She informed SunRaku and Katsuo about a new class of players called PK Killers. They hunt player killers to obtain all their items, including those in storage. To weaken Ashura Kai and prevent them from hindering their fight against Weathermon, SunRaku and Katsuo decided they would need to eliminate all PKs. This strategy would not only make them stronger, but also make it harder for Ashura Kai to cause trouble later on. The game underwent an update, and players noticed that all shops were sold out of resurrection items. Overhearing this brought a smile to Pencilgon's face. Pacing back and forth nervously, Rei's character freaked out about trying to send a male bird to SunRaku. She finally sent it, only for the bird to return right away. It turned out it was carrying a message with information and a request to help raid the Ashura Kai's base, since their location had been leaked. Upon receiving the mail, SunRaku thought it was too formal and decided to decline it due to time pressure. However, before he could, he received another message from Saiger Zero, who turned down the plan due to being busy. Vash then told SunRaku to lay Weathermon to rest. Emil gave him a necklace for good luck since he could not go with him. At nighttime, the Ashura Kai's hideout was waiting for Pencilgon to arrive, only for Saiger Zero to drop down and start killing them. The Ashura Kai were wiped out by a massive army led by Rei, so Ursulot and surviving assassins fled to Weathermon's arena but found the entrance closed as Pencilgon, Rakuro, and Katsuo were already inside. Their leader retreated with a few others, trying to get to the hidden garden while wondering how they were found out, only to realize it was Pencilgon. The three entered the battlefield. Upon their arrival, they saw Weathermon sitting next to a grave. The monster stood up as SunRaku approached, getting into a crouching stance with his hand on his sword. Weathermon launched a wind slash straight at SunRaku's head, but SunRaku dodged it and activated a new skill. The wind slash was executed with a single slash that can only be dodged. SunRaku managed to dodge it on the first try. The group had figured out that Weathermon was a special condition, and the goal was to survive for a period due to his high stats and instant kill techniques. While SunRaku dodged and attacked, Pencilgon prepared a pair of scales, ready to stake everything on them. SunRaku managed to land a few blows, but realized the monster seemed unbeatable. Then, one attack he narrowly dodged, knocked him off balance, leaving him unable to dodge the next one. He was cut in half and killed instantly. Katsuo quickly tossed a resurrection item onto SunRaku. Pencilgon gave them items that allowed them to revive after death, with the expensive ones costing 4 million each. With the revives, they planned for SunRaku to dodge Weathermon, revive him upon death, and play until he was good to go again. Katsuo wasn't as skilled at dodging as SunRaku. Pencilgon noted that SunRaku lasting 2 minutes was still impressive. Meanwhile, SunRaku realized his new weapons were losing durability and switched to his upgraded marsh daggers before tagging back in with an ineffective backstab. Weathermon then used a new technique called Thunderclap, which rained down a 5-second barrage of instant kill lightning. SunRaku used his upgraded Skatefoot to dodge it, but then got flattened by a giant cloud hand called Nimbus Fist. Katsuo revived him again, only for SunRaku to be cut in half and revived by Pencilgon while he tagged back in. The cycle of death and revival continued while Pencilgon worked her scales, and eventually they made it to the 10-minute mark with half their revival items left. In the second phase, Weathermon called forth his tactical mount, Kirin. Katsuo had to hold down the robot horse, which was very powerful and almost flattened him. He had to lock it down for 10 minutes by climbing on its back to trap it in a bucking animation. Dodged the missiles and lasers before finding a ladder to climb onto the horse's back. He used a whip from his sub-job as a bridle. Pencilgon noted they would still run out of revival items before reaching the time limit, and prepared to use the scales. Pencilgon used the reward scale and invested most of her expensive items into it, hoping to receive an item that would help them defeat Weathermon. SunRaku's luck and stamina were restored, and he successfully managed to disarm Weathermon of his sword. After enduring 20 minutes in the battle against Weathermon, Pencilgon explained that during their previous attack with the Ashura Guild, Weathermon let out a scream that unleashed a massive shockwave, killing everyone instantly. Pencilgon had anticipated this devastating attack. She now knew that Weathermon was undead, not an immortal cyborg as she had originally thought. She sent him a vial containing holy water. SunRaku and his team confronted Weathermon in a fierce battle. Meanwhile, Pencilgon faced challenges with a mech, while Katso took risky enhancements to boost his abilities, risking permanent level loss. Despite setbacks, they managed to weaken the mech, yet faced counterattack that injured Pencilgon. SunRaku dueled Weathermon intensely, employing unique skills to gain an advantage. Weathermon, recognizing SunRaku's pendant, revealed knowledge about his lineage and prepared to fight seriously. Weathermon used Tensai, a powerful move that paralyzed and killed SunRaku instantly. SunRaku, however, was prepared with a tear of rebirth, ready to revive once more. Emil was nervous, wondering why SunRaku had not returned yet. She lay in bed and looked at her clock, wondering if he was still wrapped up in the fight. She prayed that he was still alive. After the tear of rebirth revived SunRaku, he used his special abilities to boost his strength. Pencilgon killed herself to force Katso to use a revival item on her. This strategy was to get her arm restored, as she needed both hands to effectively use her spear. Once revived, Pencilgon joined the battle with renewed vigor. She started attacking Weathermon relentlessly, searching for a weak point. Meanwhile, Katso used his whips to trip up the enemy and keep it pinned down. SunRaku knew he had to act quickly. His powerful moonblades were ready to be combined into Twin Moon, a weapon that would make his attacks much stronger. He put on his bird mask and started dodging Weathermon's attacks. SunRaku's special skills, Hunger Wolf and Climax Boost, were ready to be used, but he made a mistake in his calculations and realized that his health was just a bit too high to activate Climax Boost. Just when it seemed like he was in big trouble, Pencilgon threw a knife to get Weathermon's attention. The knife drew Weathermon's focus to Setsuna's grave, where the ghost appeared, giving SunRaku a crucial moment. SunRaku quickly stabbed himself, which activated his reworked Endure skill. This skill let him survive with just 1 HP and use his buffs. With his newfound strength, SunRaku was able to land the final powerful attack on Weathermon, helping them win the fight. Weathermon picked up his sword, turned to SunRaku, and told him that his talent was truly impressive and that he would make the first pioneers proud. SunRaku was confused, thinking Weathermon was just a lifeless robot. The defeated beast walked toward the tomb, aimed his sword at the ground, knelt down, and then his body collapsed. Katso asked if the battle was finally over, but Pencilgon said they still hadn't met all the conditions to clear it completely. The cherry tree died, and the city returned back to normal. Setsuna appeared and thanked them for making her wish come true, but revealed she was actually not the real Setsuna. She was a perfect copy left behind by the real one to help Weathermon find peace, hence her title, Setsuna of Bygone Days. Now that Weathermon was gone, Setsuna's fate was to disappear. However, before she did, she tasked them with discovering the truth behind the world by finding Bahamut, though she left the details unclear. Setsuna thanked her friend Pencilgon for always visiting her, and she told her that she loved her before they both said goodbye to each other. A game announcement went out saying they defeated the first unique monster. The announcement included their names and mentioned that the world story would now progress. Saiger Zero was furious that Pencilgon had deceived them to focus on defeating a unique monster, yet remained eager to connect with the trio and learn more about them. Meanwhile, Saiger Zero abruptly left, stating she needed to assist a friend. As they exited the boss area, Pencilgon, Katso, and SunRaku encountered some Ashura Kai players who taunted Orsalot, further aggravating him. When Orsalot attempted to attack them, they activated a distress signal, summoning Saiger Zero as an anti-PK measure. Despite their attempts to fight back, Rei easily defeated them. Awkwardly complimenting SunRaku on his victory over the unique monster, Rei was interrupted when Pencilgon asked her to kill her in order to start anew after their battle with Weathermon. Rei accepted the challenge, transforming her armor to black and engaging Pencilgon in a fierce duel. SunRaku and Katso observed the battle. Saiger Zero unleashed Chaos Void, a devastating move that stunned the other players. SunRaku and Katso were shocked when Saiger Zero defeated Pencilgon. Before leaving, Saiger Zero asked about SunRaku and Pencilgon's friendship, and then left feeling relieved that they were just game buddies. They didn't know what to do, so they just picked up the items left behind. SunRaku then found Pencilgon's special sword and headed to Third Rima. There he met Emil, who was very happy to see him. Emil was so excited that he cried tears of joy when SunRaku returned a necklace to him. Later that night at the game company Utopia Entertainment Software, the boss, Chief Tsukiyoga, arrived and was upset that a big monster in the game had been defeated. Tsukiyoga panicked when he realized that he had forgotten his stomach medicine. Amachi was already angry and had to go through numerous security checks to enter a room. Upon meeting Tsukuri, they argued about the game's balance and story direction. SunRaku logged back into the game and found Emil still crying tears of joy because Weathermon had been defeated. Visace gave SunRaku a new mission, which in exchange for its successful completion, he will reveal the world's secrets, to which SunRaku said yes. SunRaku proudly showed Emil the loot he got from defeating Weathermon. He received a book that told the monster's story, a clear sky skill book to learn new abilities, and an inventory key that could store lots of items. When SunRaku put on the key, he disappeared, surprising Emil with a room full of robotic monsters and armor. On the other hand, Pencilgon visited Setsuna's grave and brought her flowers as a nice gesture. She left with an evil grin, knowing that she'd stay still to reveal the secrets of the world. Kei, a boy with blonde hair, sat in his room in front of a TV. However, seeing SunRaku and Pencilgon having fun without him now bothered him. Suddenly, he received a message from SunRaku telling him to check the inventory key. Kei got up, entered the game, as his character, Katsuo. The three of them sat together at a table, with SunRaku and Kei feeling excited until it was revealed that the key was currently just a glorified art exhibit. Pencilgon explained that to use any of the tactical machines with specialized armor powers, they needed an energy source called the non-standard ether reactor. She admitted she had no clue what it was or where to find one, meaning they couldn't use these advanced weapons without power armor capable of double blows. SunRaku was disappointed, but Katsuo pulled one out from his loot from the Weathermon fight, though it was damaged. Pencilgon asked if Katsuo had tried fixing it at a shop, to which he replied that no one could fix something they'd never seen before. SunRaku proposed a plan to fix it by borrowing it and taking it to a unique scenario, to which Katsuo agreed on the condition that SunRaku explained to him how he triggered the unique scenario in the first place. SunRaku mentioned that the game didn't explain the trigger, but he could recount the events leading up to that moment. He began telling them how it all started with Lycagon the Night Slayer, when he was around level 20, managing to survive 5 minutes without taking any damage. Both Kei and Pencilgon yelled at him, suggesting he was only sharing out of pity since they couldn't do the same. SunRaku defended himself, and they urged him to just take the item and fix it. Pencilgon asked for the scales back, which SunRaku returned, revealing she had borrowed them from an NPC. The girl told the group that defeating Weathermon proves hunting unique monsters pays well. She suggests they form a clan together. They play paper, scissors, rock to decide the leader, and Pencilgon loses, making her the leader of their new clan, Wolfgang. Just then, another player shows up, looking for them. Each member splits up to handle their own tasks and avoid being found. Meanwhile, SunRaku arrives in Rabatuza with Emil, but Visace isn't around. He asks Bilak to fix the broken reactor, but she explains she's a master, not an ancient craftsman needed for the job. SunRaku decides to train Bilak to become an ancient craftsman. At first unsure, Bilak soon agrees to SunRaku's plan. To turn Bilak into an ancient craftsman, they need 2 special items. One was a legacy weapon for Bilak to study, and the other was a magic operations unit. SunRaku went to get a sword from the storage space for Bilak, but before she could get started working on it, SunRaku remembered that all weapons from Inventoria belonged to him, Pencilgon, and Katsuo, so he had to check with them first. They decided to look for the second item instead. Bilak showed them a detailed map of the Lightless Barrens, where SunRaku needed to collect items for Visace. He was excited because it matched his other mission, but it was a long journey and he needed a way to hide the bunnies. Bilak wrapped them in bandages and fur to disguise them. After setting his respawn point in Rabatuza's palace, he traveled to a new city called Forfolkshire. There, he got holy items to protect against a dangerous place called the Canyon of Ancient Souls, full of undead creatures and a different environment. Luckily, the dangerous air in the canyon didn't affect SunRaku because of a special mark he had from Lycagon. As they went deeper into the canyon, they came across a wyvern zombie. Because of SunRaku's mark, weaker enemies like the zombie kept their distance. Then, a Dullahan appeared and challenged them. Even though the Dullahan was stronger, SunRaku saw it as a chance to test his new skills from fighting Weathermon. SunRaku used his improved Moon Reflection move to knock the Dullahan off his horse, giving Bilak a chance to hit him far away with her hammer. SunRaku was faster now and used his skills to quickly defeat the Dullahan. He and Emil teamed up for a special attack where Emil used Magic Edge while attached to SunRaku's arm. Bilak's hammer started glowing with fire, and she hit both the Dullahan and his horse hard. They got the Dullahan's sword, which Bilak said she could fix. Just as they were leaving, they noticed a shape nearby that caught their attention. SunRaku suggested they climb the rocks to move faster, but Emil and Bilak warned him about the crystal scorpions lurking there. Emil and Bilak insisted they stick to the same path. When they spotted a monster's shadow, the bunnies urged SunRaku to run. After walking a while, they reached a strange black dome. The area turned foggy, and the boss, the Humming Lich, appeared. SunRaku rushed to attack the skeleton, but his strikes were useless. Bilak explained they needed a weapon with holy attributes, which they didn't have. Bilak then had an idea and asked SunRaku to distract the Lich while she prepared. Holding Emil in his arms, SunRaku used their previous technique, but it wasn't as effective as before. When he hit the Lich with Magic Edge a second time, the skeleton summoned several clones. Bilak threw him with Dullahan's Decapitator, now filled with holy power. SunRaku could only use it 8 times, so he experimented to learn more about the Lich. Accidentally hitting the clone revealed they shared health, which was low. SunRaku's plan began by throwing Bilak far away and using Emil's Magic Edge on the clones. He targeted the archer first and then the Lich with an axe. With this strategy, they defeated all the clones at the same time. Now, armed with 2 attacks, SunRaku aimed to get rid of the area's boss. He threw Emil up to distract the creature while he aimed the sword at its neck. The attack didn't kill it, but SunRaku expected that. Bilak joined in, striking the weapon with her sword and destroying the monster. Emil fell and hit his head, leaving SunRaku with only 1 HP. Defeating the boss cleared the miasma, and they headed to the next city, 8hold. SunRaku bid farewell to the bunnies. Bilak planned to repair the holy weapon. Before leaving, they warned SunRaku and advised him to be cautious. Once the door to Rabbituza closed, SunRaku chuckled to himself, clearly planning to be daring. SunRaku returned to the Canyon of Ancient Souls, ready to confront the Crystal Scorpions. SunRaku was excited to climb the cliffs where the Crystal Scorpions lived. These scorpions were hard to see because they blended into their surroundings so well. One of them almost got him with its simple attacks. SunRaku wanted to explore and find rare materials. Suddenly, a whole swarm of scorpions tried to attack him. Emil felt sad for leaving SunRaku alone. But, luckily, he returned next to her. He complained about the scorpions, and even though the NPC scolded him, she cheered up quickly when he gave her a carrot. SunRaku went back to the area again, trying to be sneaky this time. He found a rock full of materials, but when he started mining, it made noise and attracted the scorpions again. He went back next to Emil, disappointed again, but he had managed to bring back a small piece of crystal. After returning with an item, SunRaku decided to rest, but then he noticed that the scorpions were crashing into each other and hurting themselves. He gathered a bunch of scorpions and made them crash into each other, laughing like crazy when it worked. Using his Inventoria, he made himself disappear and then reappear, collecting all the parts left behind by the scorpions. SunRaku realized that he needed a scorpion stinger, which was the hardest part to get. He teleported away just as the scorpions were about to attack, then struck quickly to cut off a stinger. He was so happy, but then he fell into a group of scorpions by accident. SunRaku got back next to Emil somehow and tried to convince himself he didn't need the stinger. But he couldn't accept that and decided to show all the materials he collected to Bilak. Bilak was happy when she saw the crystals SunRaku brought. which made him feel proud of himself. Just as Emil was about to remind him about not getting a crystal scorpion stinger, he playfully stuffed a carrot into her mouth to quiet her down. Even though Bilak could make weapons with the crystal scorpions, she couldn't do anything with the gemstones. SunRaku needed to either sell them or find a jeweler to turn them into cool accessories. Sadly, there wasn't anyone like that in Rabbituza, but the rabbit knew someone, although they were annoying. All of a sudden, a cat named Arameus appeared at the window, claiming Bilak as his special someone. He was a master swordsman from Kate Sith's land, Kazeria. Arameus was excited that Bilak was asking for his help, and even teased, saying he would fight Lycagon for her, but it just seemed to annoy her even more. When Arameus heard about SunRaku's achievements, he seemed a little skeptical. So he tried to test SunRaku by swinging his sword at him. Luckily, SunRaku dodged it and impressed him. Then Bilak scolded the cat for attacking him. Arameus took the gemstones, kissed Bilak's hand, and rushed away. Meanwhile, Hizutome logged out and saw messages from Pencilgon and Katso inviting him to chat about something. Instead of replying, he went to bed, wondering what they were up to. When he logged back into the game without reading their messages, he figured it was probably something annoying. SunRaku went to find Bilak so they could continue their mission, but Arameus was already there. Since Rabbituza and Kazeria were close allies and SunRaku was working under Visace, the king of the cat Saiths wanted to help SunRaku. However, SunRaku wasn't too keen on the idea. Emil turned into her human form and SunRaku put on his Medjed outfit with Arameus and Bilak inside it. Bilak and the cat couldn't get along, however, and almost tore the robe while arguing. They ended up attracting attention, but everything seemed to be going as planned. Suddenly, a girl with pink hair stared at them and tried to talk with SunRaku. She had a deep voice that sounded more like an old man than her character. Then she mentioned the Medjed outfit, saying she knew SunRaku was the one who used it. The pink-haired girl is a professor, the leader of the library, a clan all about game lore. He loved how unique the scenario flags were in the game, which made it perfect for adventurers. Unfortunately, crucial information was being held by the Colossi, which no one had managed to defeat, even one. That is, until SunRaku and his friends came along. Then the professor proposed to SunRaku that he join him if he wishes to uncover the truth of this world.